Welcome back to another episode of the She Can't Quit podcast. Today we're talking all about social media strategy and how to build a customized one for you in 2024. First, you're going to ask, why do you need a social media strategy? Don't you just post content and hope that it works? There's a lot of trends out there. There's a lot of gurus, but this is the thing. Strategy is what will convert everything from your sales to your following growth to whatever your goal is that you have for this year for your business or brand. You want to have it backed with strategy. And that is one of my favorite things to talk about. So the reason that you want to have a social media strategy planned out is because social media is always changing. So with that, you need to make sure that what you're putting out there is not only staying aligned to what is the current market trends or how consumers are consuming your media, but you also wanted to stay aligned with your brand messaging and who your people are. And that's going to look different for everyone, which is why it's so important to never copy someone else's social media strategy, and why one of my biggest pet peeves is copy and paste social media strategies. So that is why every client that I work with at the agency gets a customized one down to every single detail, because it truly makes a difference. The next reason is because you want to invest your time where it counts. You're already busy. You don't need to be doing a million different things if you don't have to. What you're there for is to make a difference, put your messaging out there, and making sure that it's getting in front of the right people so that you can ultimately make those goals, whether it's sales that season, whether it is to create more connections, or whether it's just to get your brand out there. So first, before we dive into building your strategy, I want to talk about something super important, and that is having a brand strategy. Now, most of the time when people start businesses, they automatically go to getting the brand design, but what people often skip is the brand strategy. This is so important when it comes to not only creating offers, when it comes to business strategy, but also when it comes to social media and marketing strategies. In your brand strategy, you're going to have things that break down your audience to the detail, describing them on every level, who they are, how they think, how they consume, and ultimately that is the icing on the cake when it comes to creating really strong conversions. So before diving into building your social media strategy, first you need to at least be able to answer these few questions. First one is knowing who your audience is, knowing what problems your audience is currently struggling with through each season and how that progresses as the seasons change. These, I like to say, are the thoughts that keep you up at night, because they will change throughout the year. It's something that I love fine detailing and figuring out with each of my clients. And then you need to know how your product or service fits in with that problem, and not only ultimately solves that problem, but how it differs from anything else in your industry. A bonus tip here is going to be mixed with your messaging, and we'll talk about that in just a bit. But it comes down to making sure that you know exactly how your person, your audience, or as you may have heard, your avatar, how they talk, the certain language they're going to use, the certain words that they use, or the exact thoughts that are going to be running through their head. And it's going to trigger thoughts and responses in their mind or out loud saying, oh my gosh, how does she know exactly what I'm saying or what I'm thinking? And before we get any further, if you are needing a brand strategy developed, if you are wanting to take your social media strategy or marketing strategy for this year to the next level, we are currently accepting clients to help with this over at the agency, The Fairy Tale Social. I'm going to leave a link down in the bottom in the description or in the podcast show notes. If you are currently interested in this, are needing some development there, I'm happy to chat with you. The first step in building your social media strategy is knowing what your biggest goal is when it comes to your marketing. And this is going to differ depending on what season your business or brand is currently in. Is it your goal to get more eyes on your brand or business? If so, then your goal is going to be to build more brand awareness. And with this, your strategy is going to be heavily focused on visibility, tactics, and strategy. If you've already built that awareness and feel that you've built some really great momentum, then the goal is going to be to focus more on building leads and creating those connections. And this is going to look like a nurture phase. This phase means that you're going to build your strategy really heavily around creating authority and really leaning into that unique brand positioning, which is why that brand strategy that I talked about is really important. So if your goal is around building authority, then you're really going to be focusing on creating content and positioning yourself in a way that shows you as the expert and the go-to in your industry. Now, if your goal is going to be around creating more sales and more bookings, or if you have a product, more sales in those, then you're going to have already gone through those two phases really recently and kind of gone through step 1, step 2, step 3. I always kind of rinse and repeat these with clients because they're going to look different every time, but the basis of them is really important. And so if you've recently been through those and been through the visibility, you have really great visibility, you have really great brand awareness, and then you've gone into and created at least some warm leads, then you're stepping into a phase where you're going to be focusing on conversions. So now that you know what your goal is and what current season your business or brand is in right now, I want to point out some KPIs or some specific metrics that you'll be looking for and really focusing your attention on when it comes to the strategy that you put out there and the analytics that are coming back. Now, most people would look at everything, but there's actually key metrics for each season that are really important, and they'll actually give you a clearer picture of what's going on and if you need to tweak it all at any point. So if you're in that awareness brand, where you're building that brand awareness, you're really going to be focusing on impressions and reach, or pretty much how many eyes are coming into your world. And so this is absolutely going to be built around your content strategy, but ultimately you're really going to work on creating those numbers as far as putting your content out there, getting your name out there, and getting yourself known. You also will be seeing how that trends with your account growth or followers and how those work together, because you will see some growth there. If you're in an authority phase, then you're going to be focusing on shares and saves and overall engagement on the content that you do put out. So this is going to be comments or DMs, and likes are questionable. I know that people have talked about, we've seen a really big dip in engagement, especially on Instagram and across all platforms, really. But likes are one of those things that doesn't necessarily mean something is true or false, because how many times, if you think about it, if you're scrolling over something and you like it, you have thoughts about it, but you don't have enough action to actually like it, or sometimes you will go and comment or share it before actually liking it. It's kind of one of those skipped steps. So likes are a questionable one that I don't really put my whole opinion when I'm looking at analytics for each account. If you are in a conversion season, then you're going to be looking and tracking the end goal here. So that's going to be looking at DMs. You're going to be looking and monitoring closely the questions and the language that are coming in. So usually this means that you're either in a launch or sales phase, and you're going to be looking at any of the engagement that's coming in very personal, very close to the brand. Maybe you're a service provider and people are asking questions about a course. Maybe you are going through and you're in e-commerce and have a product. You're going to be looking through the actual numbers that are coming through in the conversion part, and you're going to line it up with when you have actually put your content out there and seeing how that correlates with the numbers that are coming back on the back end. So whether it's through your website, through however you're tracking sales. Okay, so now that you're aware of what metrics and KPIs to track during each phase, now we're going to decide which platform is right for you. And before you get nervous that you need to get on everything, it's actually not true. And there's a lot of hype between what everyone is doing, and we call this in the entrepreneur world shiny object syndrome, but you do not have to be on every platform. And I actually highly suggest against it, because you end up getting too overwhelmed, your messaging gets confused and watered down, and ultimately you end up losing sales and losing money and clients on the table. My best practice and what I suggest to clients is to start with 2 platforms. Ideally, you're going to do a long form content like YouTube or blogging, and you're going to do a short form content. So this is going to be something like TikTok or Instagram. So with this in mind, I want you to take note of where your traffic is actually coming in right now. If you are a product-based business, you're going to be looking more likely at your Google Analytics or on the back end of your website. If you are a service provider, this is going to be looking at your current platform and where you're booking your leads. So for me personally, I use HoneyBook when I have a new inquiry come in, and I have an option in there where it says whether it's referrals, whether they're coming from Pinterest or YouTube or Instagram, and I know exactly where my leads are coming. And with this in mind, you're going to know, kind of get an idea of where you should really put that energy, and it gives that more intentionality behind your strategy to make it even better. So to choose the platform, you're going to need to really understand your audience, which comes back to that brand strategy. You're going to think about their demographics, their age, pretty much what they're doing on a daily basis. Are they a mom that's really busy? Maybe you're focusing on perimenopausal women, and so the age will be different than someone who is focusing on influencer marketing and targeting younger moms. So with this, the platforms are going to change, and one will outperform the other. Eventually, you could do all of them as your brand grows, but ideally you want to start, like I said, with the ones that really align for your brand and business right now. The other thing that I really like to keep in mind, and this especially if you are a service provider or if you have some kind of teaching modality in your business, whether you are a business coach, if you are teaching some kind of skill, maybe you are teaching art class. If you are going to be the brand or the face of your business, then ideally you are going to want to figure out how you connect and communicate the best. So for me, I really love talking, and I also love doing video content. So for me, podcasting and YouTube and long form content make a lot of sense. If you are someone who maybe is a little bit more introverted or loves writing, then I highly suggest maybe doing blogging or something even where you can start with blogging and get into something that's maybe more video facing. This is important because if you have something like the teaching modality, like I was mentioning, and you are a service-based provider, you're definitely going to want to lean towards the video content because people are going to want to try before they buy. They're going to see how they connect with you. They want to see how your teaching style is, how you communicate, and they're going to want to connect on that energy level to make sure that they really vibe with you because they're going to be investing with you, and they want to make sure that they not only like, know, and trust you, but they really want to make sure that they actually connect with you and they can see kind of what it's like to be working with you and having you mentor them. Now that we've built that foundational part of your social media strategy, it's time for the content creation phase. Now, I'm going to just do a very surface level of this because we can get really deep. And if you'd like another video on that, please let me know down in the comments. But before we get started, I want to chat about a few trends that I've noticed and how you can apply it to your strategy that you're building right now. So this year, we're already seeing a lot of trends, and this is actually something that's been trending for quite a bit. So keep this in mind as you're building your social media strategy moving forward throughout this year. I'm sure it'll come as no surprise, but video content and short form content are here to stay. We as consumers have changed the way that we're consuming content, and it's at a fast and a high volume pace. With this, we've changed the way that we interact with these different posts and pieces of content. So what that means for you is that you need to create content that is both very intentional and strategic, while at the same time able to get the attention of your specific audience. And because of that content, and because we're consuming so much as consumers, it's also highlighted the need, and this is what we've seen this last little bit of the year and going into this year, that we still need that human emotion and that human connection. So because of this, it's really important why I work so strongly with my clients in building that sales psychology, not only in the content creation itself, but in the caption and the copywriting and throughout every part of their marketing funnel. People don't want to be just another sale or waste their money on something that they're not quite sure will work, that they don't quite know if it's 100% for them. They want to intentionally invest with someone that they not only know, like, and trust, but someone that they genuinely feel gets them. Now, I touched on this a bit earlier, but as you've seen and as you may have noticed on your accounts, engagement is down platform-wise. And I want to say this is nothing to worry about, but this is the reminder that it's not about the views or the likes on your content, but instead it's about focusing on the conversions that come from the people that are in your corner of social media already. So if you're worried about losing followers, that is okay because they're not your people. And ideally, you don't want to waste that energy on trying to convert them into something that's just not for them. Instead, focus your energy on building your social media and marketing strategy this year into attracting the people that are meant for you. If you're also worried about having a certain amount of followers, or if you're thinking about buying followers, which is one of my biggest pet peeves, please do not do that. You do not need that. This is the era of the micro influencer. If you have an account that is under 10K, even under 5K followers right now, you are actually getting more engagement and more reach than people who have over 10K or over 50K followers. Okay, so now that you have those in mind, let's go to the content creation phase. Now, we've built the outline and the foundation of your social media strategy. We've chosen the platforms that you feel are best going to support your goals that you've mapped out. And keeping in mind the current trends, now it's time to create your content. First, you're going to create your content pillars, which I'm sure you've heard, or people call them content buckets sometimes. And how you're going to choose these content pillars is thinking of 3 to 5 subjects that you could talk about forever that relate to your product or your service. So let me map out some examples for you. Let's say that you are a service-based business. You are a fitness coach that helps perinatal moms. So your content pillars may look like nutrition. This is going to include things like on-the-go snacks that can be eaten in the carpool lane. Another content pillar could be physical activity or workout. This could look like stroller workouts, easy ways to sneak in a workout during busy days, or 20-minute circuits to burn stubborn belly fat and boost your mood. Another content pillar could be mental health or mindset. This could look like posts of something like morning routines to boost your mood. Another content pillar could be productivity tips. This can include content pieces on restful sleep tips or a night routine, or it could be something like a stress-free routine to meal prep. And another content pillar for this business could be self-care. So this would be 10 less than 5-minute ideas for self-care for busy mom. These could honestly go on over and over and be rinse and repeat, but they're all talking to that ideal person. Again, we don't want to talk to everybody. We want to talk to your people because that's where you're going to get your highest conversions. And I want to just say there are more of your people out there than you realize. And if you're feeling like you have to talk to everybody, then I want you to internally turn in, because that is a scarcity mindset. And I promise you there's way more. Once you you don't have to niche down, focus on your people specifically. So if you have maybe it's a mom who focuses on anxiety, or maybe anxiety is part of your personal brand, absolutely add that in as one of your content pillars if that's something that you talk about and feel super passionate about. Okay, now let's do an example for a product-based business or e-commerce. So let's say they're a female-owned company that sells scrunchies. Content pillars for these would look like hair tutorials, especially something that is themed around different seasons. These would be so fun. They'd be very savable and value driven. Another content pillar for this would be self-care. You could show a Friday night self-care kit, even adding these in as a subscription box or part of your product to boost and do a launch around. Another content pillar could be women empowerment. This could look like posts even with collaborations of different female-owned beauty products or accessory products. This could even look like posts that are quotes. This is going to be highly around visibility, not only sharing with other people's audience, but the metrics that you'll see here will be an increase in saves and shares. Another content pillar for this business would be a business production or behind the scenes or unique brand insights. This would be bringing that audience deeper in behind the scenes to understand why this product is so different. Why wouldn't they buy a scrunchie from Target or Amazon? Why specifically are they buying from this female-owned brand? And this can be so fun. This can be static pictures of the brand owner and the creation, how things started maybe on a doodle of paper. You can get as unique and creative as you want. So as you can see, with those content pillars, you're going to create a list of different ideas under each one, and you're going to rinse and repeat and rotate through those content pillars. Okay, now taking those content ideas in mind, when you go and plan either your week of content or your month of content, I highly recommend content batching, having a content batching day where you film everything, you pick out some outfits, you switch them out, and you do all of your recording or photo taking at once, do all your captions at once, so that way you're kind of working in the same zone of genius, the same space, and you're going to decide which form of content is going to work best for each idea. Now let's take Instagram, for example, and we're going to go back to that scrunchie business. So for the hair tutorials, this is going to do best in short form video. So a reel would be ideal. Not only are you able to see the product being used, but you can see it in an actual setting and people can relate to that. And they're also going to save it so that they can try their own. This way, they're not only envisioning and seeing how the product works and getting that product awareness and brand awareness, but they're actually going to see themselves using that product, which is going to eventually convert in a loyal customer. When it comes to the self-care content, this is going to be really fun and either a static graphic if it fits your brand to do some doodles or some fun graphics that can map out a list or 5 ideas that has some illustrations. And if not, you can also do a mini vlog like a reel. This is also really great when it comes to having brand influencers and featuring them and growing your audience that way. So mini vlogs like that would do really well in a reel format. When it comes to women empowerment, this would be really great as a static quote that can be shareable. I would suggest maybe doing occasionally some reels that have a quote and that have some kind of movement to them, but ideally static quotes are going to do best with this. When it comes to the business and behind the scenes, a mix of static, which I would say are photos of either the brand behind the scenes, the storytelling part of it, or the owner itself as they're doing this, reels that are storytelling or a voiceover with some really emotionally drawing either vlog-like content or videos of behind the scenes or carousels that kind of tell the story with some overlay of text on it would do really well because they're really rich in that storytelling and are going to create that connection and eventually that conversion to a loyal customer. So as you begin to kind of post your content, keep an eye out for what's really working on your accounts and what's in line with your goals. Now, I make a note of this weekly on my content and on my clients' content, but you're going to take an overall look at the end of each month. I highly recommend not to make any strategy changes until after the 90-day mark or when you go every quarter and review your strategy and look at the analytics from a 3-month window view. So if something is working more than others, you can find a way to tweak that into your content strategy just with changing some unique angles around messaging, honing in on messaging even more, especially when it comes to unique wording, and taking a strategic look at your messaging in general. When it comes to your social media strategy, you're going to be looking at this every 90 days, like I said, or once a quarter as you go through and kind of retweak everything. I highly suggest at least making a couple tweaks, especially as the season change. I do believe that marketing changes seasonally too in how we create content. If you change it constantly or even more frequently than that, then you're going to end up taking a risk on not getting a clear picture of what's working and what's not working. Remember that growth is a long-term game, and each action that you take is a building block from the day before as you go on. So those are all the steps for building your social media strategy for 2024. If you are wanting to learn more about how to build a content strategy that is in line with your social media strategy, please let me know down in the comments and I'm happy to create a video on that. If you're a small business owner or brand who is looking for support in their marketing this year, then please feel free to reach out to our creative agency, The Fairy Tale Social. I'll link everything down below and see what the best fit for you is and how we can help you. And I would love to chat. As always, thank you guys so much for being here. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. If you are listening over on the podcast, please make sure to leave a review if this was helpful and share it with a friend so that they can learn this too. And if you're watching over on YouTube, please make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And I will see you guys next time.